This normal, please. Dr. Blair, Dr. Blair, Dr. J. Hamilton, Dr. J.
Well, nurse, what do we have?
Doctor, our patient's feeling a little under the weather. According to the chart, for the last 10 years, Squeaky's been showing increasingly unusual symptoms. It seems he constantly wants to build and rebuild robots, but always working up to the last minute.
Just as I suspected.
Stress, Doctor.
No, a severe case of best fever. The patient needs more energy. We're going to have to resequence his DNA.
Is that possible?
It is possible. It'll be a 6-week process. The DNA will have to be denatured, sorted, then resequenced. It's a radical new procedure, but it's Squeaky's best shot.
Oh, my.
We'll have to inject the patient with nanotech biobots. These biobots will separate and isolate the cells. They'll activate the denaturing thermal switch and then separate the PCR primers from the DNA deoxyribonucleotides. With limited mobility and only 3 minutes to initiate the denaturing process, it's critical that the biobots work together.
Can this be done?
To save Squeaky, it must be. But we'll need help in building the biobots. Okay, team, gather round and listen up. We've partnered with Wichita State University's Engineering Dean's Circle to help construct our biobots. Earlier, in September, the Dean's Circle invited 32 high school teams to WSU's Hughes Metropolitan Complex to introduce them to our new procedure and kick off the 6-week process.
Well, kickoff is the first time that all the teams come together to hear about the game. The game is a quote-unquote closely held secret.
The idea of the program is to teach the students the fundamentals of how engineering decisions are made.
Each one of the teams will design and construct a radio-controlled biobot and then compete against each other in a game-type format. This will determine which team best meets the challenge of our radical new procedure. We've limited the game to a 6-week period, simulating a product time-to-market constraint.
We provide each team a basic kit of parts, some electronic equipment for control, and then raw materials, plywood, sheet metal, bolts, nuts, rod. That way each team gets exactly the same kit of parts.
The most important thing is, and the toughest, is the actual very beginning when they're trying to think of an idea. That is what requires real creation.
Teams will also have the opportunity to participate in the Best Award. There are 5 categories that make up the award. First, they'll create a project summary notebook. This is a review of the technical documentation of their project. The notebook will help us understand what the team has done and how well they incorporated the engineering process.
The notebook specifically looks at the technical side and what effort and what rationale and how did you arrive at your final product.
The engineering process always stays the same. So that's the basic, that's the basic idea. But this year was so totally different. We didn't have wheels, no active defense. So it gave a really, a different spin on it. So while last year's notebook was neat to look over and to, basically be just a helpful guide almost. But this year was totally different, so it was a challenge in that.
A couple of days before game day, teams will present their project to a panel of judges. Team members will be given 30 minutes to provide details and answer questions from the panel. A table display will need to be constructed. During game day, teams will display and illustrate to judges how they promoted their project within their school and community. Also during game day, teams will be judged on spirit, sportsmanship, and also on how well their biobot performed during the seeding rounds. The playing field is composed of a ring with an outside diameter of approximately 20 feet and an inside diameter of 12 feet. The bowl-shaped wall represents a blood vessel. The blood vessel wall is comprised of 3 scoring areas. Teams will be able to score for themselves or share points with their neighbors. Game pieces consist of brightly colored plastic balls representing deoxyribonucleotides, tennis balls representing PCR primers, and a hidden game gene piece. Scoring depends on the placement of each of the game pieces. Our teams now have only 5 weeks to design and build their own unique biobots before we meet up again for Mall Day. The students will quickly need to learn and implement the engineering process.
What's interesting is to be able to watch the kids take what they're learning in the classroom and actually apply it. And as a classroom teacher, we don't always get to see that. You don't always know for sure if everything's really sinking in. You don't know if they're just remembering it long enough for the test or if it's actually being applied somewhere in their life. And being able to do this program, you can see the application, you can see that they are retaining the information and they're getting that real-world opportunity instead of just sitting in class.
Right now we're between the design stage and the building stage. We're just trying to wrap up design, and what we're trying to do is figure out our dimensions, how big is this thing can be.
Well, I'm working on the arm team, so we have to kind of tell the base exactly how we're going to have to connect and where it needs to go for the arm to fit into the dimensions. And then we have to talk to the hand to see how they're wanting to attach to our arm, because if they attach it wrong, it could screw up everything.
Okay, listen up. Our teams are not only led by a group of dedicated teachers and volunteers. They'll gain valuable insight working alongside local professionals within their community, mentors who will help guide them through the engineering process.
It's kind of nice to see them having to go through with some of the other guys in the industry, really emphasizing, okay, we're going to design this stuff first. It's on paper first, before we ever go out there and start making something. And I think that's a good experience for them, too, to make them think before they act, which applies in a lot of different ways of life.
Your first inclination as a mentor is you want to just design the whole thing, but that's not the job of mentor. So we try and make them look at it from a design element, understand how it works with everything else, the benefit of the machine in total.
It's now been 5 weeks since our teams learned of their assignments. We'll now get them back together for Mall Day. Mall Day is when the team notebooks are due, and it gives them a chance to show off their biobots. Plus, they get to check out the competition.
You have to block out the time that you're going to use for the strategy sessions and the preliminary designs and the brainstorming sessions. And if you don't follow that schedule, getting to Mall Day is a major problem.
Through all my experiences with BEST, I'm now in classes now, which is so much fun to tell the students, because I'm doing BEST all over again. All my student projects in classes, they're BEST. You have to do a notebook, then you have to do a presentation, then you have to build your thing, lots of CAD. It's all in there.
A major partner in the success of the Kansas BEST program is the investment made by local area companies.
There's nothing you could invest better in the future than the opportunity to support Kansas BEST and open that avenue to kids that may have never been exposed, young adults that are still searching. It's a golden opportunity to get involved.
Okay, the high school teams have now had 6 weeks of design, construction, and redesign behind them. It's time to see what these biobots can do. Our teams began arriving early at Charles Koch Arena on the Wichita State campus for a day-long competition to find out who would advance to the Regional Texas BEST Championship. Each team would compete in 6 randomly selected matches to determine the afternoon's 8 semifinalists. After 8 challenging semifinal matches, Wichita West, Bishop Carroll, Wichita Homeschool, and Ambassadors for Christ battled their way into the Kansas BEST Finals. 3 matches would now decide the Kansas Best 2004 champion. Homeschool came out blazing, scoring 428 points, winning the first match. But that would not discourage Ambassadors for Christ. The Bentonville, Arkansas team bounced back, determined, winning their second Kansas Best Game championship. Wichita Homeschool finished second, with Bishop Carroll picking up the third-place spot. And also for the second year in a row, Wichita Homeschool continued their expertise by winning the Best Award. Second place in the Best Award went to Circle High School. These 4 teams will now travel to Southern Methodist University for the Texas Best Regional Competition. Our 4 teams began their Texas quest on Friday with panel interviews, display building, and notebook judging. On Saturday, game day, Ambassadors for Christ Academy and Wichita Homeschool enjoyed spots at the top of the leaderboard throughout the preliminary and semifinal round matches of the game competition. After an amazing 4-team finals match, the outcome was too close to call. After the officials huddled to tally the score, Ambassadors for Christ emerged as the champion, winning the Texas Best Game Day Championship, defeating Wichita Homeschool by only 16 points.
From the Kansas Hub, team number 28, Wichita.
Wichita Homeschool continued its dominance of the Best Award by claiming their 3rd title in 3 consecutive years, scoring 97 out of a possible 100 points. We're all very proud of how our 4 teams represented the Kansas Best chapter in the regional competition. All of our teams worked together using sound engineering processes to save Squeaky so that he can be his best for another 10 years.